Welcome back. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about cookie and session. So let's get started. What is cookie? To my surprise, it's just a cookie. I'm just joking. As you can see, cookie is a bit of a data stored by the browser and sent to the server with every request. So cookie is just like a data, alright? So a browser will store the data in a browser so that in every request, the browser remembers that, oh, this cookie belongs to this user. So let's render the specific data to this user. As you can see in the diagram, MSN.com is a website, while the computer on the right is a browser, alright? On Monday, MSN.com passes the encrypted data, which is cookie, to a browser. And then on the following Wednesday, let's say the user decided to open back the browser and go to MSN.com again, then the browser will pass back the encrypted data, which is cookie, back to MSN.com. So that MSN could actually remember that it was you or that user who browsed the website last Monday. You still don't understand? So let's put it this way in an easier term. You can think of this as carrying on an exchange with a bank teller who has no short-term memory and needs you to identify yourself for each and every transaction. Even though the bank teller already remembers you, but whenever you want to make some kind of transaction, you always need to identify yourself. So that's kind of like the basic terminology in English. So in the browser, instead of storing large and constantly changing information via cookies in the user's browser, only a unique identifier is stored on the client side, or we can call it a session ID. So the session ID is passed back to the web server every time the browser makes an HTTP request via AJAX or normal request, which we saw like app.post or router.post. So as you can see, the value is actually the value of the session ID. Session is actually kind of related to cookie, but session is stored in the server while cookie is stored on the browser. So the cookie actually is encrypted the session data into a cookie and store it on the browser. So still don't get it, but don't worry, I will go through it again. So let's go next. This is the code example, alright? Let's say you want to see the value of the cookie. This is how you do it in code. You can actually paste this code right below the middleware, before routes and after cookie parser and session. So what is session? Session is just a collection of data stored on the server and associated with a given user, usually via cookie that containing the ID code. Again, the cookie will store the session in the cookie. And the session is actually like user ID or username or user, you don't want to save user password in the cookie, like user profile picture or something like that, but you don't want to, you don't want to save his profile picture either. So you store user ID, for example, in the cookie. So that is session. Session is just stored on the server while cookie is stored on the browser. So let's go next. So here you are. Let's say Amazon.com passes the session ID to the browser, alright? Pass it, and then the Amazon.com accept it. But actually, it's in the form of this is actually on the server side, not on the client side, right? So, let's say the user decided to actually kind of like close the browser, and what happened is the session ID will be, will actually be thrown into a trash. Will be forgotten. So what is the main difference? Again, the main difference between a session and cookie is that session is stored on the server, whereas cookie store data in the visitor's browser. Just think of it: session, server, cookies, browser, and cookies has session encrypted in the cookies. So Express.js libraries for cookie and session, we actually did we did install this too, actually, cookie parser and express session in the previous lecture. So it's, again, cookies for browser, session is for server. The conclusion is that because HTTP is stateless, in order to associate a request to any other request, you need a way to store user data between HTTP requests, cookies, or URL parameters like this, for example. And both cookies and or URL are both suitable ways to transport data between two or more requests. But you don't want to pass cookies in this URL. They are not a good case because you don't want your data to be readable or editable on the client side. So the solution is to store the data server side, give it an ID, and let the client only know, so only cookies know what is session ID, and pass back at every HTTP request. So let's say you log in and then it will redirect you to a profile page. That profile has a cookie which remembers that, all right, this is the data that belongs to this user. So there you go, sessions implemented. Or you can use the client as a convenient remote storage, but you will encrypt the data and keep the secret server side. So meaning is that you leave it in the storage, which if you go back to this one, this is actually the storage of the remote storage. So let's go back. But of course, there are other aspects to consider, like you don't want people to hijack other session. You want session to not last forever, but to expire soon. So that's why like every cookies will have a specific expiration date. Like for example, if like 1 hour, let's say, like for example, like a bank website. If you log in and then after like 10 minutes, it will automatically lock you out because the expiration date for that session is only for a short-term period. So I mean that's about it. If you still don't understand, you can still ask me questions via email. So I'll see you guys in the next lecture where we're actually going to implement this terminology into the authentication. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.